Hey guys, it's Dana with Engadget. I'm here with the Samsung Galaxy Tab 7.7, and I've just finished up my review, and now I want to give you a quick walkthrough of the design. So let's begin with the centerpiece here, this brilliant 7.7-inch 1280 by 800 Super AMOLED Plus display, and actually this is the first Samsung tablet to have a Super AMOLED Plus display. And what it has to offer, I hope that you can see in the video here, is some excellent contrast. You have some deep blacks here, some very potent colors, and best of all, some excellent viewing angles. So, hope you can appreciate in the video here. If I twist it to the side, you can make it out pretty well from those more oblique angles. Same if I view it this way, which you might do if you had it on a table in front of you and it weren't propped up directly. Needless to say, this is a beautiful display here. This is one of the main reasons to get this over, say, the Samsung Galaxy Tab 7.0 Plus, which I have right here for comparison. So if I bring this into the picture here, you can see by comparison, it happens to be also a lower resolution display, but you can see that by comparison, any other tablet display you're likely to use will just look more washed out. The viewing angles won't be quite as impressive. And on its own, the 7.0 Plus was actually, we thought it was a pretty decent display, but really once you go to the 7.7 with a display like this, you don't want to go back. Another way it improves on the 7.0 Plus, which is the other 7-inch tablet in Samsung's lineup, is that the build quality is a little bit superior, actually a lot superior. So whereas the 7.0, which I'll show you again in a minute, has a plastic back with sort of this painted brushed metal look, this is actually the real deal. As you can see here, this is metal and it's quite tough, but it's definitely resistant to scratches and it's resistant to fingerprints, and it's all metal on the sides too, as you can see here, and the buttons are made of metal except for these thin plastic strips here which cover the various antennae. And in a way, this reminds me of just various HTC devices we've seen, including the HTC Flyer tablet. It sort of vaguely calls that to mind, but it's generally just it's more pleasant to hold in the hands than, say, the 7.0 Plus, which I have again right here. You can see that this is just, it's made of plastic, it has the painted pattern there, so it's not as good looking, but what I will say is that even though this feels like a more premium tablet over here, the 7.7, both are well made. So I don't think the 7.7 offers anything extra in terms of build quality, and it doesn't even offer much extra in terms of thinness. And that's not to knock the 7.7. Both are extremely thin, even for a 7-inch tablet, which is a smaller category. And this doesn't feel, the 7.7, it doesn't feel appreciably lighter or thinner, but that's not saying much. It is very thin and light in the hands. And what's impressive is that behind this, inside this thin exterior here, is a 5100 milliamp battery that in my test delivered 12 hours of video playback, and that wasn't even taking into account, that wasn't even using Samsung's built-in battery mode, the power-saving battery mode. So this makes me wonder what we could see from other gadgets, just that if this is so thin and has such great battery life, then what's every other tablet maker's excuse, right? So far looking good. You've got this great design, this great display, the long battery life. Let's do a quick walkthrough of the various ports and features here. So I'm going to hold this up in portrait mode, and you'll see that there is a speaker up here and followed by a 2-megapixel webcam. And what's interesting is the 7.0 Plus also has the front-facing camera up here so that you're meant to use it in portrait mode, whereas the Galaxy Tab 8.9 has it on one of the longer edges as if you're supposed to hold the tablet in landscape mode. And indeed, this is a lot easier to type with if you're using it in portrait mode. So if I type this right here, I have plenty of leeway in my fingers there, whereas if I twist it this way, you may have bigger hands than I do. I can still type okay here, but it's definitely a more comfortable tablet to use in portrait mode, especially for web browsing, as you can see with the pixels there, and just the amount of scrolling space that you would have. So that's one interesting thing, is that it's definitely meant to be used in portrait mode. And if we take a tour around the device, you'll see going back here, that 2 megapixel camera is paired with a 3 megapixel camera on the back with an LED flash. And you'll see from the accompanying gallery of photos that photos certainly aren't perfect, and tablet photos rarely are, but at least the colors are fairly balanced and pleasing, and it has this great tap to focus feature, which I can show you. So let's open that up really quick. Whoops. Tablet timed out on me. So let's open up the camera app here. So although the accelerometer here has it's a 4-way accelerometer, for whatever reason you can only use the camera app with certain dimensions. So I'm going to put this subject back here. Okay. So this is the camera app right here, and you see I have tap to focus there. There's the record button, and I can do things like add effects. So I can make it a negative color scheme, grayscale, sepia. I can adjust the white balance. I can turn the flash on or off. Not a particularly advanced setting, but there you have that. And so overall, the quality of photos that you get from this camera is pretty good. You know, it struggles in low light, but what camera doesn't? Or what tablet camera doesn't, anyway. Moving it around here, this is in particular an HSPA Plus international version of the tablet. So accordingly, it has a SIM tray right here. And you'll see that although the build quality is generally excellent, the doors here feel a little bit flimsy. You sort of scrape them off and they feel a little bit weak. Same thing with the micro SD slot over here. I should say the micro SD slot accompanies a starting internal storage of 16 gigabytes, which can go up to 64. Moving around here, you've got a proprietary docking connector, which you can charge over USB on your computer, or you can plug into the included AC adapter. And you'll also need this particular connector to sync with the PC, so there's no USB port anywhere on the device. Here you have the twin speakers, which deliver surprisingly loud sound, just considering how small this thing is. You have the volume rocker over here, and the requisite power lock button. And then, of course, your 3.5mm headphone jack. So that's been a quick tour of the device itself. You know it's thin and light, you know it has a great display. One thing I do want to show you is just this. So here we go. As I do this, hopefully you can just see the performance, and it's generally a very fast little piece of machinery here. It has the same dual-core 1.4 gigahertz processor that you'll find in the Samsung Galaxy Note. It also has 1 gig of RAM, and it definitely sweeps all of its competing 7-inch tablets in our usual benchmarks. And in practice, it just feels fast. I mean, it's definitely responsive to taps and all of that, but right now it's not immune completely to various moments of sluggishness that we have noticed with other honeycomb devices. So you may have seen just now that it was a little bit slow to respond to me. So you'll see that a little bit. It's fast, but you will see some hiccups, and hopefully when this does get an ICS update, that will remedy that. Now this is a calling app, not something you're really used to seeing on a tablet, and but actually, in fact, you can make calls. The requirement is that you have a SIM card slot that can go into that tray. So you will need that SIM card slot, and that, of course, will be the number that you're calling out from. But once you have that inside, you can set the data to either the cellular network or to Wi-Fi, and then I can make internet calls from the tablet. And there is a receiver mode so that you don't have to broadcast your conversations in public to other people who might be around you. You can use a Bluetooth headset using the Bluetooth 3.0 radio inside. I chose to use headphones for the most part, so I plugged it into the headphone jack up there. And you can actually hold this to your head. People will laugh at you, I promise you that. So in practice, you'll see here that it took all of my Android contacts. I own an Android phone myself, so once I logged in with my Google account, which is part of the setup process, it took all of my favorites. So I'll see my favorites up here. If I had any groups, I'm not really into organizing people that way. You would see that also. And what I like here is that the dialer has the dialer only taking up part of the screen, so that I have a choice as soon as I launch the app of either tapping straight on a person's name or typing in the number myself, that I don't have to take any extra steps, really. When I made calls to people, the quality wasn't so good. At best, people could tell it was an internet call and not, I guess, a regular phone call. And people often misheard what I was saying, and they would say non sequiturs as if they had heard me say something else when really I said something completely different. Or they thought, or they couldn't hear me, and sometimes they thought I sounded distant. So it works, but I would only use that as a last resort if you happen to be traveling. That's been my walkthrough of the Galaxy Tab 7.7. Again, thin, light, incredible battery life, pretty fast, but not without some hiccups, pretty good camera, and really the only glaring flaw, as far as I'm concerned, is that it's expensive, because right now it's not on sale in the US. It's headed to Verizon. We don't yet know how much that LTE version is going to cost. So right now, if you're watching this from the US, you need to import this as we did, and it costs nearly $600 just for the 16 gigabyte version with Wi-Fi only, and this version, which has 16 gigabytes plus that HSPA plus radio, costs almost $700. So the question is, how much are you willing to pay for what is essentially, clearly, the best 7-inch tablet on the market? And that's a question I'll leave you guys with. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.